Yeah, we got last.
It's an At the Office edition of the East Bank Sports Show, serving up the hottest sports takes from right here in Cleveland, Ohio. It's your hosts, Noah, John, and Erik.
Welcome to yet another day in the office. It's an office edition of the East Bank Sports Show. We are back with another show. John, Erik, how are we doing? Erik, we'll start with you.
Doing well. Good evening, gentlemen. I'm excited to once again say whatever Noah has to say is wrong. It's always fun.
John, look at you, all official. He's got a mic in the camera. I do have a mic too. I just hide it on camera. Look at us.
Shout out to Erik. Thanks for dropping it off. My kids enjoyed playing with it on Zoom before we get on tonight. And I'll throw a dart real quick before we start. I'm keeping receipts. I got a lot of scoffs when I said the NBA playoffs were wide open. Warriors, Lakers, Clippers, Suns, Bucks, Sixers are all at home, and the Wolves have the Nuggets on the ropes. It is indeed wide open.
All right.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. We had a pretty popular topic last week. And I would love to kind of discuss it real quick. So for 30-second takes this week, I would love to get into where we are putting the Cleveland Mount Rushmore. So let's talk about it real quick. I would like to shout out Zeke Dog. Just commented. I think I can show it. Hello, gentlemen. I love your show. We love you, Zeke. Thank you for supporting the At the Office edition of the East Bank Sports Show. Let's get into it. I'm going to put the timer up. John, Erik, I believe we started with you last week. John, we will start with you this week. Where are you putting the Cleveland Mount Rushmore? Go.
Yeah, I had some smart-ass remarks about putting it where the Brown Stadium is now once they close it, move to Brook Park. I also like the idea of like Edgewater or Coventry, and I was like, this isn't like a 4-star French restaurant. It's the Cleveland Browns Mount Rushmore, or it's the Cleveland Sports Mount Rushmore. So, I mean, you got to put it in public square. They got plenty of space. There's areas out there. I think that's the best place for it, centrally located. I'll go with public square.
Erik, I'm ready to hear your take. Let me put the timer up and go.
Well, first of all, I think I took this question a little too literally because I was thinking the actual size of Mount Rushmore, which I don't think we really have space for. But I got 3 words: Brook Park, baby. I mean, you're already getting the Browns there. You got the alliteration anyway. You got the airport. You got Applebee's. You got the new Brown Stadium that looks like a bunch of condos. We might as well just put Mount Rushmore out there too.
I'm going to go because I think this is a fun one. Put a break wall over Lake Erie, a little bit out there, so you can see all of the Cleveland sports faces out there in the middle of Lake Erie. I want to be able to see Joe Thomas's beautiful smiling O-lineman face staring at me as I look over the Cuyahoga River, which is to my left, looking out to what would be, I guess, my even further left. And 100% put it in Lake Erie.
$40 million project. Noah Olson. We got to fund it, but I like the idea.
We learned that Noah's not great with direction. And also, I really lobby, if we're going to put it on the lake, that we make it 2-sided so that Canada has to stare at our sports.
100%. 100%.
I got to give a shout out to Erik. Any take that includes "you got Applebee's" is a winner.
Just saying, there's not much out there, guys.
So this is kind of a shoot off the hip. Let me put the logo back up real quick. This is a shoot off the hip. I wrote an article following our episode on Fans First Sports, which is the network that hosts this show and hosts the Fanatical Elves. So shout out to Fans First Sports network. We really appreciate them. I get the sports right for them sometimes, all the time, whenever I feel like it, really. So I'm really appreciative of them. Put out an article, posted on a couple Reddit threads, and we got some fun answers to who people thought was on the Cleveland Sports Mount Rushmore. So before we get into our normal topics of the night, I would love to get into some of these comments. I love doing viewer interactions, even if they aren't a viewer yet and they were just reading my article. I think it would be a fantastic moment to sit down. So we're going to react to Cleveland's takes of the Cleveland Sport Mount Rushmore. So let me pull up the first screenshot. I'm going to read it out for those who are listening audio-wise. You know, we are live. We do this live on, X, YouTube, and Facebook typically, but we always put this out after the fact for anybody that wants to listen. Make sure you download as well. Helps us out a ton on our end. Let's get into it.
Yeah. Elon didn't think that through. You got to say, we're doing it live on X. That can mean several things, none of which have to do with what used to be Twitter. But yeah, let's get into it now.
I hate X. I
hate it too. I used to say Twitter more, but I decided in my media voice that I need to go calling it the proper name instead of living in the past. Regardless, let's get in the first one. LeBron, Jesse Owens, Jim Brown, Bob Feller. I feel like this is a pretty normal one.
It's a good list. I mean, listen, I think Jesse Owens is a unbelievable figure, but he's not really a Cleveland figure for me. We were talking more Cleveland sports. He's more of a Columbus guy. I know he lived in Cleveland, at a young age, and I think he came back after college for a very short period, if I'm not mistaken. But all of his accolades and stuff weren't done while he was in Cleveland.
Yeah, Jesse Owens was one of the first people that came to mind for me. And then I narrowed it down to people who played for Cleveland sports teams, not necessarily were from Cleveland. Because a lot of the people, I don't know where that Jim Tomey's from, a town of 17 people in South Dakota or Montana or something, but he played here. I love Jesse Owens. I think he meant a lot to a lot of people for a lot of reasons. I just didn't think of him as a Cleveland athlete, but that's a good shout out. I mean, if you put him on there, I don't think anybody's going to go, no, that guy didn't deserve it.
That's fair. I kind of agree with both of your takes, so I'm going to move on to the next one because I'm going to be honest with you guys now. It gets a little more entertaining as we go. I numbered them on my pull up the screenshot. So the next one is, I don't know about Mount Rushmore, but Stipe Miocic needs some more love. And I honestly agree with it. I mean, he's a Cleveland guy, won the championship in Cleveland. Takes?
Yeah, I mean, he was even a firefighter, not in Cleveland, but in the suburbs. I don't disagree with that take. He won one of his belts when he was in Cleveland, right? Didn't he take one of the championships here?
Yeah.
I love Stipe. He's an awesome guy. I don't know. I like that one. He's kind of an ugly face for Mount Rushmore, but that's all right.
Yeah, there's I would say 1 in a million chance that he actually hears this. It's probably less than that. And I don't want to get my ass kicked, but I'm not putting him on my Mount Rushmore. I think he's dope. I love him too. But you can only get the top 4. I think Stipe has got more work to do to crack the likes of Jesse Owens and some of the other, even like a Bernie Kosar or LeBron James. I mean, who are you going to pull off to put on Stipe?
That's fair. I agree with you.
Please do not kill me if you happen to hear this. I love you, bro.
I mean, but how intimidating would Cleveland look if you got a guy up there with cauliflower ear? I mean, nobody's messing with the city when you're looking at that.
He is a good. Now, if you said who is the best face of Cleveland, maybe of living folks, or because they always go to we talked about the Rock Hall and Drew Carey and all this other kind of stuff. Yeah, he's a bona fide badass. I mean, I think he embodies what it means to be a Clevelander through and through. I'd put him on the front of all kinds of stuff. I just won't put him on Mount Rushmore.
I'm with you guys on that. I'm with you on all of that. To move the topic along so we can get into our real debate topics. Our third, we have 7 screenshots, just so you guys know. Our third screenshot, The all over the hill Mount Rushmore. Sean Kemp, Shaq, and Martinez, and Don.
Wow.
Bro, Shaq and Sean Kemp, dude, that guy gets credit. The internet's undefeated. That's hilarious. I love that.
I like the Sean Kemp pick. I mean, that's taking me back to being a kid. So
Yeah, I wasn't even a sparkle in my mom's eye at that point. So
Yeah.
I just thought that was,
we're talking over the hill. Joe Flacco?
Joe Flacco could be on the over the hill. It's just too new. It's just too new. Let's move to number 4. How about Dick Goddard, Moses Cleveland, Bernie Kosar, and Harvey Becker?
I mean, not really sports, but you gotta love Dick Goddard. He did all he could do for animals in Cleveland. He's at a rival was at a rival TV station, but nothing but love for that guy.
I do too. I got a fun Dick Goddard story. I'll keep it super brief. Long story short, I used to be treasurer of Berea City Club, and we did the rib cook-off. And Dick Goddard came out to do a weather shoot. And we asked how he was doing, and he said, "I'd be a lot better with a shot and a beer." And we hooked him up. It was like 8:00 in the morning, but yeah, he's an OG.
Love
you
that.
guys ready for number 5? I love the story, John.
At this point, no, but hit us.
How about just for Isaac Okoro? Just for Isaac Okoro.
Hot take. Well, he played well last night, and I love Isaac's hustle, so I don't want to get on him. But I think 4 Isaac Okoros would average about the same as 1 Donovan Mitchell over the course of the game. So, you know.
Who was that? Arken 16. I don't want to speak out of turn because I know we have more, but Arken 16, you are nuts. And I'll leave it at that.
I thought it was Christine from work. So if she's listening to this episode like she listened last week, shout out Christine.
Hey, Christine, miss you.
Number 6. This it just keeps getting better. How about Tim Couch?
Willie,
and Willie Hayes. Anybody think this Mount Rushmore makes sense?
My only issue with this one is that you're kind of doing my boy Z dirty in this list.
Right? Like there's 3 like BS names, right? And then Z's like arguably a face of Cleveland sports.
Yeah, put some respect on Z's name.
Before Z had foot problems, he was a problem. I know I'm the only one old enough on here to remember that, but that guy was going to do. I mean, he still was a solid center, but yeah, I agree. They did Z dirty on that list.
Number 7, the last one I pulled. I had like 12 screenshots. I cut it down so we could move on to like our normal topics and stuff. How about Darren Williams, Mo Spades, Dwayne Bowe, and Andrew Bogut?
People are just clowning now.
Man.
Yeah, that one was a fun one.
I don't even have anything to say to that one.
I did have a good fantasy name for my team, Somewhere Over Dwayne Bowe. It was one of my favorite. I came up with it on my own, but realized that everybody else had it too. But I was pretty proud of myself.
100%. Other than that, any other takes on those fantastic lists I pulled off of Reddit before we get into our actual topics of the night?
I'm still kind of mad about Z. I mean, as a big man, a foot inside the arc, he drained everything. The dude could shoot. And John's absolutely right. If not for, I remember those foot problems. I was a kid, but I remember them. And shout out to, I got to have dinner with the Cavs team when I was younger and was standing in line next to Z. And it's like looking up at a mountain.
Yeah. My dad was every bit of 6'9" at his height, and Z towered over him, and it was wild.
It's crazy.
I just say thanks to everybody, from the thoughtful Jesse Owens to the 4 Isaac Okoros. I just appreciate the fact that people hear us and comment, man. So right on. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I love being able to react to some of the takes and stuff like that as well. It makes it a lot more fun when you get some viewer interaction, especially with the live comments like Zeke just gave us not too long ago. That being said, gentlemen, we do have 2 actual debate topics tonight that I would love to get into. One was kind of inspired by me and Erik debating in that very office room that Erik's sitting in right now. What is next for LeBron as he enters the late stages of his career? I'm going to take it from a perspective, especially with the betting lines. But I kind of want to hear what you guys think is next for LeBron James as an NBA player as he enters his 40s. John, I think I started with you for the 30-second takes. Erik, we'll start this time.
Hey, super fast. Do you have those betting lines in your vision anywhere? I'd love to know what they are. I'll pull them up while Erik's talking. If not,
I do, because I pulled it. My opinion was based off of the betting lines.
Okay. So. All right. Sorry.
I'm actually really interested to hear that as well, because I didn't think to look at the betting lines at all. So my takes are, I have 5 spots for him, and I think these are places, 4 are realistic that I think he not only should take a look at, but probably will. One's a little bit on the fringe. So, I mean, the best spot for LeBron, honestly, is probably Cleveland. We have a real win now team, a core team, a lot of whom are under control still. The cool thing about LeBron is he brings with him talent too. So I still feel like we need another big outside of Jared Allen that's a little less soft. I really liked what we saw out of Morris and TT in some of those minutes, but we need something better. But you plug LeBron into this team right now, I'm not saying that they're going to win the finals, but they're almost assuredly going to make the finals. The East is a lot easier than the West, so I think it makes a lot of sense for him to come to a team like Cleveland. The second one, and another team that I kind of think is in win now mode and makes sense for him, would be a second round with the Heat. I think Pat Riley would do just about anything to get LeBron back. And again, it's a lineup and a team that kind of makes sense and aligns with what LeBron wants. And again, he goes to the Heat. I'm not sure anybody on here would say they're not making it very far. I think they arguably, again, make the finals.
Yeah, I went to the damn finals last year, didn't they?
Right, exactly. Here's where things get a little more interesting. New York. Now, first of all, I do think if you put LeBron on any team, he can fill any role. The dude's just so versatile. You know, the people that think he's falling off, I think are only looking at the freak show LeBron, which he still is, but he is certifiable in every category. The man can pass the ball. His court vision is second to none. So he makes guys and teams better. New York is the biggest market. And I don't care what you say and how you feel about the Knicks, but him bringing a championship to those Knickerbockers, man, that's cementing a legacy once again somewhere else. And, you know, he's gotten a little heat for, pun intended, going to the Heat and those 2 championships. And a lot of people call his Lakers ring the bubble ring, and don't give him a lot of credit for that one. And obviously there's a lot of history with both those teams of getting championships before him. But bringing one back to New York, I'm not saying he would be as lauded as he is in Cleveland, but I think it would go a long way. And of course, the market thing is huge. The fourth and final one that I think makes the most sense is the 76ers. First of all, they have a max roster slot open, so they can pay him a max contract. And I think even though that might not be as big of a deal to LeBron right now, they have the moves where they can make that. And who knows, maybe Joel Embiid is going to lobby when they're on the Olympics together. I can't really see him going to a city like Philly. It doesn't make a lot of sense in my head. Philly would love him. I mean, their fans are fanatical.
Did you say fanatical because we're a part of the Fanatical Network?
I did. Shout out Fanatical Elves. And then finally, the one that I don't think makes any sense and I don't think will happen, but I only have it on here because I do think he wants to play with Steph Curry, and that is Golden State. I don't see it happening for a bunch of reasons. First of all, if it's about championships and he wants to win, I'm not putting any salt on Curry's name because I think he's incredible, but Golden State is no longer a team that is in a win now mode. I think anything could happen when you start throwing guys like that together. And although I think he wants to play with Curry, the West is a lot harder. I don't think he would want to stay in the West if he is moving on from LA. By the way, LA's chances of even going to a finals are just about none. So if that is what's most important for him, I do think we're going to see LeBron move. The biggest question, I guess, is really what's going to happen with his son. Is that going to play a factor? Is somebody going to draft him? Is he going to go undrafted? There's a lot of questions up in the air of what it means. A part of me thinks as much as LeBron wants to play with Bronny, I think LeBron's going to make his move and kind of make the expectation of, hey, the team that I go to, find a way to get my son on the team type of thing.
Yep.
John, go ahead.
Yeah, that's fair. I love a lot of what Erik had to say. Some of those make more or less sense to me. And I'll tell you why here in a minute, and maybe we'll come back to it. So I went at this a different way. Erik did a really good, a pragmatic approach about like who as a team has the best opportunity to land him and or where would he fit well. And I don't disagree with anything that he said there. But I went about it with he's going to be 40 years old and he's going to do what he wants to do. So instead of thinking about where he could go, winning a championship is one thing that he probably wants to do, win another championship. But I thought about what he's after. Does he want another ring? Does he want a chance to play with his son? Does he still want to be the man or start fitting into a system to be, I never call a man like LeBron a role player, but to play a role, a big role for a championship team? And does he want to be close to home? He's made it clear that that's something that's important to him throughout his career. My kids ask me all the time, Dad, is LeBron coming back? Dad, is LeBron coming back? I go back to the jersey burning with my oldest daughter saying, I'm going to write a strongly written letter because she was heartbroken. Then he comes back. We celebrate Father's Day championship. I always tell him the same thing, and my answer is always unequivocally yes. LeBron James will come back to Cleveland. Is it on a one-day contract to retire as a Cav, or is it for 3 years at the end of his career because he's going to have one more run? That's the question. So, excuse me. I thought about all of that. I thought a lot about what Erik said. There's only a few teams that can do all of those things. A ring, play with his son, still be the man or fit into a system close to one of his homes. Cleveland is my top choice. And that's a homer pick. We're on a Cleveland podcast, so obviously we're biased, right? We love the guy. He grew up like 45 minutes from here. But I think the time is now if it's anything more than just being the man, right? The Western Conference is a total juggernaut and will be for years. SGA, Ant Edwards, Booker and KD, Steph, until further notice, Denver's Denver. There's a lot going on out there, a lot of young talent. It's not going anywhere before LeBron retires. The reason I said the Cavs is because we have pieces and options and he could choose, right? We could keep Mobley or Allen, but not both. We could keep Donovan or Garland, but not both. We can move some high-dollar guys around. Max Strus is making like the GDP of Costa Rica. Like we could probably part with some salaries, right? I think there's sign and trade potentials that is workable. I once went down a rabbit hole and read a ton about the NBA salary cap, and I'm not a cap expert, but I know a lot about how it works. And what the Cavs need to do to get over the top is a small forward. That's the other thing. When we look at the weak spot on our lineup, LeBron fits in perfectly. If he doesn't want to play hard for 82 games, fine. We were the number 2 seed until Donovan got hurt. We have enough talent to get to the playoffs. And once you have a seat in the Eastern Conference, it'll be wide open next year like it is this year. Celtics aren't unbeatable. He wouldn't have to carry the load. The playoffs would be an easier battle. There's a few other places that make sense. Cleveland, you said, Heat, New York, Sixers, Golden State. I can't argue with any of those. I don't think he'd want to go to like Philly when either coming home to Cleveland or going to New York or Miami is an option, but can't argue there. I also think from a money standpoint, who can do the most to get him, Oklahoma City could be a really interesting place, but like the biggest player in North America going to like the smallest sports market in North America, I don't see it making sense outside of the fact that they can afford it. But outside of just staying in LA and hoping they can do something there with the pieces, get a little healthy and maybe add, and he'd probably be sacrificing a last title run, I think Cleveland makes the most sense. Be interested to see what the odds say, because I would put staying in LA probably top, Cleveland number 2, and then everybody else we listed maybe outside of the 76ers right there. I could see New York. I could see Golden State.
You know, one that you didn't mention, and I didn't either, and I just want to throw it out there before Noah throws out the betting lines. And I think it would be interesting from a project. It is still in the West, but San Antonio. Obviously, they have a stud rookie that's unbelievable. You got Pop, who I don't know how much longer he'll last, but that could be an interesting place to stick him in. You
Yeah,
have the market issue again. I mean, I agree with what you say about OKC. How have you been to Oklahoma? Like, I haven't, but I don't really want to either.
So I can
Sorry,
get into
Oklahoma
the betting
listeners.
line side of this and make it a little more interesting, right? The number one odds at a minus 320 is still the Lakers. The Lakers are the number one odds. I personally don't see him going to Los Angeles. I think he's going to spend the twilight, quote unquote, of his career either chasing a ring or playing basketball with his son. And I just don't think LA is the spot for him to do it right now. Tied for second are three teams. Us, the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is all plus 1,300. Miami Heat and the New York Knicks are all tied at plus 1,300.
Okay.
I think that's I think the story there just from the lines is not so much where is he going to go. I wouldn't expect that to be that much farther behind. The gap between LA and everybody else is more surprising than any of the teams on the list. You said minus 375 to stay in LA and then plus 1,300 or something to leave and go
1,500, right?
Minus 320 plus 1,300. Yeah.
13. That is, I mean, that is a big. You think when you get to the end of your career, and you've seen it with all kinds of athletes, that's when they start moving around because they're thinking about their legacy and championships. I know he's won a bunch of rings already, but the argument is still Jordan 6-0 in the finals, or 6 for 6 rings. I don't know how he's not thinking championship at this point. I'd be shocked.
So I'm going to keep moving down the list to make it a little more interesting. Plus 1,500, Golden State Warriors. Go link up with Stephen Curry, which, as much as it pains us as Cleveland fans, you know, it makes sense on paper. Let all the old heads get together. Tied after that is the Atlanta Hawks and the Chicago Bulls at plus 1,900. And then the last one on the list is plus 2,000, the 76ers, like Erik mentioned. This is odds of as of May 7th, 2024, and this is being recorded on May 8th. So this is a day old odds from what I'm reading on the Fox Sports article. Real quick to get into my take, I think it's a pretty decent tie-up between the teams at plus 1,300. I don't think LeBron's going back to LA. I think he wants to go where his son goes, and ultimately where his son goes is where he'll go. And I think teams like us, like Miami, like the New York Knicks, who are, you know, a player away or a superstar caliber player away from making a deep run, especially in the Eastern Conference, I think you could see any of those teams making a pick in the second round to take a guy like Bronny James, who, you know, 4 points per game, really didn't show much at USC, as a chance to take LeBron for 2-3 years, get a ring out of it, and then, you know, hope and pray in the G League, Bronny turns into at least a role player having LeBron James genes. But what do you guys kind of think based off of me giving you those odds and everything?
I don't think much about the odds. I don't think you mentioned OKC. I was surprised not to hear them, or maybe I missed it or you said it.
No, there was no OKC in the top betting lines.
Fair enough. I do think that in the NBA, teams can make stuff happen. It's not like the NFL, or whereas there's a hard cap and everything's so hard to do. You can restructure deals, but it's tough. And it's not like baseball where the haves and have-nots go to war because the Yankees and Dodgers can pay everybody everything. In the NBA, when you want to do something and LeBron says this is what's going to happen, I don't think there's a team in the NBA that couldn't figure it out. If LeBron calls and says, hey, it's done in LA, I want to come play in Milwaukee, the Bucks are probably going to figure out a way to add him. And they got tough cap space, and they got all kinds of stuff with Giannis and Dame time. But long story short, I think if Bronny's the key, I mean, this guy's going to come to your team, make you an instant contender no matter how bad you are. And if you're already a contender, he's going to give you a shot at a championship. You mortgage your future, you give up what you have to. Put Bronny on the damn roster. I don't care. If the Cavs get 15 roster spots, don't put him in the G League. Say, hey, we're going to draft him. We're going to trade all this shit to get a high pick. We'll take him first overall. If LeBron says he's coming back to Cleveland and the key is Bronny, then figure out a way to get him. Like, I don't think
First
with the
overall.
assets that issue.
First overall is
That's
crazy.
wild.
That was a hot take from John for the first time.
If LeBron
Erik's
James said, I'm coming back to Cleveland for the rest of my career, with the roster as currently constituted, knowing we have another championship window, we have 3 more years to make a run at the finals. You wouldn't sacrifice taking number 1 overall for Bronny to get LeBron back in that. You have drafted.
Sure, because you're getting a double pick with LeBron. I mean, if that's the world we're living in, sure, I get what you're saying, but I agree with you 1,000% that he would be on the roster. He would not be in the G League. I think he would play in junk time or whatever, but a big part of it from LeBron is being able to be in the locker room and hang out with his son. Doesn't necessarily mean starting 5. I don't think we would see that anywhere. That said, Noah, I find it interesting that you take LA. I know LA wasn't on my list. I was more looking at good fits for him, but there's a lot to be said for having a home and making a home somewhere for quite a long time, and also not dealing with Cleveland winters, which is the majority of the time he would be here. I'm not saying that rules us out, but he's living a nice life out there. He's got his film and production companies and all the other things he's trying to do. I guess the biggest question is, and I would love to hear from LeBron himself, maybe he could be a guest on the next episode. What matters most to LeBron right now? Is it being comfortable in your cushy ass life and taking putting basketball at the back seat? If that's the case, it goes towards honestly, if that's the case, Jordan's the best basketball player of all time. Debate settled. Because if he doesn't have that drive anymore to go for a championship, then what are we talking about? If he's too comfortable and he just wants to live his life and play some basketball and have fun with his son, get out of the league now. I mean, I respect LeBron a lot as a player, but I think mentality has sometimes been weak with him, and that's just ridiculous to me. The man should be chasing rings. He is one of the greatest to ever do it, and the fact that his body has held up so well. I know modern medicine and science, obviously it's changed a lot with the game, but you got to go after it. You cannot sit back and take it easy. I think that destroys his legacy.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, and that's kind of why I pushed the LA thing out of the way. I think from an outsider looking in, like I don't follow, the Los Angeles Lakers in terms of like I do the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Browns, the Guardians, whatever. I think what makes the most sense for them is to kind of blow it up as such a broad term to use in terms of sports talk at this point, but moving on from where they're at now and being a perennial, play-in tournament, maybe getting the 6th seed team and moving towards a direction where they can be the Lakers dynasty that they've been for years and years and years and years and years. That's kind of why I don't even think of it being a fit. Like, do they want him to come back? I don't know. That's the kind of thought experiment that we're having right now. Is there's so many different options. Like, of course, us 3 are going to sit here and be like, oh, LeBron would be a perfect fit for the Cleveland Cavaliers because he's a small forward and we need a small forward of a star caliber to really push us to the next level. That being said, it's easier said than done, and we're not NBA GMs that can make the LeBron decision as easy as others can. And we're also not LeBron James, who can make the decision of, okay, well, I'm just going to go to the Memphis Grizzlies because they drafted my son, or I think I have a chance to chase a ring there. And I use them as a random example because they're the first thing that comes to mind. But
I do think LeBron, though, you're right about all of that. We don't know anything. We know less than the GMs who don't know. He's going to do what he wants to do, and the team that he chooses is going to make it work. But I will say that what we do know about LeBron is that stuff like legacy and homecoming and warm reception and being beloved, I think is a big piece of what he likes. Not that he'll make all the decision on that. And I do not see him going to anywhere but Cleveland or Miami and getting that homecoming warm feel. If you go to the Knicks, you better win another time. I mean, the pressure is so high. You stay in LA, they're not even going to tell you you're the best Laker in the last 40 years. Everybody's going to point to Magic and Kareem and Kobe and say, you're not even the best. Like if he came back to Cleveland and played out another 2 or 3 years here and gave us a chance and a run at a title, we're going to cheer him, win, lose, or draw. Everything's going to be great. He can finish it where he started. He can come back home. I think that makes a whole hell of a lot more sense than Golden State or the Philadelphia 76ers.
And I'm with you
right.
on that too. Yeah. I go ahead, Eric. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. The thing that we're not touching on at all, though, and I think we should be touching on, is LeBron is a drama queen. I mean, the guy probably already knows where he's going, but let's be honest, he likes the circus of it all. He wants to be wined and dined. He likes that attention, and he always has. And I think that's a big part of it right now. And by the way, John, you mentioned he's probably not the top Laker of the past 40 years. I just want to say, Shaq.
No, I did not say he's probably not. He's the best Laker of all time.
Okay, you said others would say that, but my point is complete opposite. It's just that nobody ever throws Shaq when you're listing those players, and he just gets the shaft every time.
That is so
100%. Yeah,
that is so true. God, shout out to the Big Diesel. That guy was the most dominant force ever in basketball for a good 6 years.
Seriously, I mean, you could argue he was the driving force, not Kobe.
So
I know that
if we ever have the who was the best of all time debate, you're going to hear all of this stuff, because the reason I got LeBron above Kobe is because Shaq he was getting the MVPs. They were scheming defenses for him. He was the one that couldn't. Kobe was dope, but like, I don't know.
I think that conversation was happening until Kobe's death, and it switched up real quick because your legacy changes when you die.
100%.
It's true.
With that being said, I think I can stand for all three of us when I say we're very excited for LeBron Watch 2024 to coincide with LeBron Watch 2014, which I was 14, and I don't even want to know how old you guys were at that point.
2014. Wow. I didn't realize it was the 10 years like that. It's, in the Premier League soccer, forgive me, Americans, for just a second while I touch on this, but in the Premier League, when the season ends, which is coming up here, it ends in May. It's called, what's next is a period of when all the deals, the trades, the moves start happening. And it's called the silly season because it's just rumor after rumor of who's going where, could so-and-so sign, what's the transfer window look like? And every time LeBron could possibly make a move, I think we should just call it the silly season from now on. LeBron silly season.
No, that makes perfect sense. I don't want to miss an opportunity to disagree with you, though, my man. It's a small one, but since it only happens once every 4 or 5 episodes, I agree LeBron likes a little bit of drama, and I agree that he likes to be wined and dined. Who doesn't? I don't think he knows. I do not think – I think he has a short list and he's narrowed it down. I think he could tell you right now, is Oklahoma City or Philly really on the line, because either it's a hard yes or a hard no. But I think he's going to talk with his family, weigh his options, think about it a little bit while he has the time. I think he is torn between – not torn, but I think he's still deciding between staying in LA and coming home to someplace like Cleveland or going to Miami. I don't think he's made up yet.
If that's the case, let me ask you a kind of out there question regarding that. How much of a say do you think Savannah has? Because she's taken a back seat now for, 20 years, 25 years. She's put up with a lot. How much of a say do you think does the family actually have in his decision?
I don't think they can make it for him, but he's going to take what they say to heart. I think LeBron strikes me as a genuine family man who gives a shit about his family. And anybody
Taco Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday. And anybody with kids can attest to it. Like, it might not make the whole decision for something as big as where does LeBron play basketball. But if Savannah's in his ear saying, like, bro, I do not want to leave LA. We've done this a million times. Let's just call it quits here. That is going to play a big part in his final decision.
Well, Bryce is still in high school too, right? I mean, that's got to mean something.
That's what makes the whole thing hard, right? You talk about a legacy of a guy that is, top 5, top 3, top 2, top 1, whatever you want to say. It makes it so hard because you only want to think about the basketball side of this whole thing for him, right? And Eric, you made the point earlier too that, get out of the league if you're comfortable and you don't, But at the same time, he's a family guy. He's always been a family guy. He's been a family guy since he entered the league with his mom and everything like that. And I even know that as a kid that was not even 3 years old when he got drafted, right?
Mhm.
I mean, his mom wasn't a Family Guy. Shout out Delonte West.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Sorry, go on.
With that being said, though, like it does make the situation a little bit muddier. He's 40 years old. He's in one of the most historic franchises in NBA history. You know, they have the draft capital where, you know, if they really wanted to take Bronny, they probably have the chance to, for him to live out the legacy of playing basketball with his son. I mean, there is something to be said about that, as much as I ignore it, because I think he would want to chase another ring to at least tie Kobe.
Yeah.
You know, if he
I
takes,
wonder, though,
the
is
big
there
piece of it,
any
though.
regret going to LA? Because yes, it's a historic franchise, but what was he ever going to do there? You're in the shadow of Kobe. Unless he scores 102 points. I mean, there's just so many greats that have went through there. The bubble ring doesn't get any respect. I don't know, man. I feel like it hasn't cemented his legacy like he thought it would. And if that doesn't weigh heavily on him at this point, I would be a little shocked.
That's the big piece of it too, right? Like we talked about, what if LeBron really cares more about playing with his son and just taking a victory lap? But what if he still is really driven and desires to win another ring? That's the biggest reason he wouldn't stay in LA. They're cooked. I don't see a path with them keeping LeBron and AD to them being good enough to win a championship anytime.
Not even if they were in the East, I don't think. I mean, it's just, I don't see it.
I mean, I know they had issues. They damn near missed the playoffs this year with 10 teams.
And that's with AD having one hell of a year too.
Yeah, I'm with you guys 100%. With that being said, I'm going to cut us to break so that way we can move on to our second topic of the day, because we're already deep into this one. So we're going to take our commercial break real quick for those who are at home watching live right now. This is for the After Effects, podcast side of it. So there will not be ads playing, but for our sake, real quick, we will be right back. And we are back. We are going to debate another fun topic of the fact. This is a broad one, actually, real quick. I'll reel it back for a second. Erik put this on our document about topics to talk about on the show, right? And I think this is a good one because I feel like this is a tried and true argument that you see in sports debates, sports talk all the time. And I that's the place that the At the Office edition of the East Bank Sports Show and the At the Office edition of the East Bank Sports Show has in the Fanatical Elves Network is we debate the broader topics, right? So I'm kind of curious because I know my stance is interesting, and I'll leave it at that about this.
Okay.
Should steroid busted players be placed in the Baseball Hall of Fame? Erik, we started with you last time. We will gladly go back to John. Go ahead. Give me your take, man.
Appreciate it, bro. Had another take earlier that said the Guardians can win 100 games, and they're still busting ass. So I wanted to come back and show you that receipt as well. But no, to get into the baseball topic, I played baseball. Cleveland Heights High School, Baldwin Wallace, near and dear to my heart. I love baseball more than the average fan. And the one thing I want to get off my chest with this entire topic is that the writers who vote on the Baseball Hall of Fame suck. They suck. They're idiots. They have no idea what's going on. And I want to say that blanketly about everybody because I know who some of them are. There's some guys on there who I respect. There's some writers who do a decent job. But for the 400 or so votes, there's probably 300 idiots running this show. It's a serious matter. And first of all, they still take themselves too seriously. There are a bunch of hypocrites because home runs with the Sosa and McGuire and Bonds era revitalized the game that we love. And you take the good with the bad. Nobody was bitching and complaining when they were hitting 70 home runs. Nobody wasn't watching when McGuire and Sosa were facing off. Everybody was cheering. People were showing up in droves. They're making millions of dollars. And now, with retrospect, they could cheer and cheer and cheer for 10 years and then go, oh, tisk, you shouldn't have done that. I don't think steroids were good for baseball. I think there's health issues. I think it's bad for kids. There's a lot of things that go into it. But they come up with this like, oh, everybody cheated. But if you get to the point where like 90% of baseball players are using steroids, it's almost an even playing field. Now, that's a little bit of a hot take. I'm not condoning the use of steroids. It's illegal and it was against the rules. They did it. They broke the rules and they cheated. And I don't want to minimize that. But they're dumb in the way they handle it. I mean, just one more point on it being dumb before I get to the crux of this thing. There's like one person who's ever gone in as a unanimous first ballot Hall of Famer. I think it was Mariano Rivera. Like, somebody saw Ken Griffey Jr., Derek Jeter, Cal Ripken, Hank Aaron, Tony Gwynn, and said, nah, not this time, right? Like, it's just, I think the whole thing is a mess as to how you get in. But to the topic, I think you do with this what you do with anything. When in history, when it's broken or when there were bad eras or there was bad news, you call it out, you own it, you address it, you talk about it, you're honest about it. And I think what they ought to do is do like a Hall of Shame in the Hall of Fame and say that throughout the checkered past of baseball, we had a Black Sox scandal. Ty Cobb wasn't a good dude. Pete Rose did bet on baseball. Bonds, Sosa, and Schilling took steroids. But look at the numbers, right? Nobody said don't put in Joe DiMaggio because of all the things off the field with Marilyn Monroe. Like, you can say we went through an era where a bunch of things weren't right. We have rectified the situation. We realized it was an error. We're better for it. But during this era of darkness, these men did these things. You hit baseballs farther on steroids, but you don't hit them, period, on steroids. And I think to have a Hall of Shame in the Hall of Fame with the Bonds and the Sosas and the Schillings and the Pete Roses is the way to go about it. Putting these people on the ballot and just leaving a blank ballot when you vote for the Hall of Fame, or nobody voting for Kurt. I mean, what are we doing? What are you talking about? So you're saying there's a Hall of Fame for the best players ever in the history of baseball, and Barry Bonds isn't in it? That's the most idiotic thing I've ever heard. And as somebody who's a little bit older than both of you guys, my mom's a Reds fan. She's from Cincy. There was no interleague play. We used to go to Pittsburgh and watch the Reds play the Pirates. I saw Bobby Bonilla and Andy Van Slyke and Barry Bonds play before Bonds was juicing. Dude was a Hall of Famer whether he took the steroids or not. So I'm going to tell you guys that too right now. They helped the home run total, but Barry Bonds is one of the best baseball players of all time. Was he an asshole? Yep. Did he cheat? Yep. Should he be in the Hall of Fame? Yep. Right along everybody else who did that much for the game, because that's the point of a Hall of Fame. So own it, address it, talk about it, call it is what it is, but you can't not have people who performed at this level for all of these years not in the Hall of Fame. When you guys were cheering it, you were fine with it, and now all of a sudden it came out and you want to play like Monday morning quarterback on everybody. They should be in the Hall of Fame. And I am passionate that they cheated and they were wrong, but like, should they be in the Hall of Fame, yes or no? It's a yes for me, 100%.
Erik.
You know, going into this, I got to say, first of all, I agree with almost everything John said. Surprise, surprise. I, too, am a baseball player, grew up loving the sport, still love the sport. I thought I would go into this as a hypocrite. And the reason I thought that is sometimes my heart and my head on this issue are different. That said, I think I do agree with John. First of all, I don't agree with having like asterisk Hall in the Hall of Fame. I think that's a little weird. But that said, I think, first of all, talking about how these people get into the Hall of Fame, it is writers who are voting. It takes 75% of the vote in order to get in. You have 10 years of eligibility, and then you fall off. And then there's some other rules, like if you don't get a certain percentage of the vote, you automatically fall off, even if it isn't 10 years, things like that. John's absolutely right. We're not talking about like the Pentagon Papers here. This isn't hard-hitting journalism. And more to the fact is, these aren't guys with like the fedoras and the pencils in their ears of yesteryear when they were covering Babe Ruth. They're tweeting. So I think, yeah, they need to chill out and take their job a little less seriously. They're acting like it's a complete affront on baseball. You know, a little bit of me, though, relishes the history of the game, the America's pastime of it. If you ever get a chance to watch Ken Burns's documentary on baseball, it's an amazing watch, and I think everyone should watch it. There's some nostalgia there that the steroid era really shattered for me. I was never a Bonds fan, first of all. I think he's was an incredible athlete. I think one of the greatest hitters of all time, and John's absolutely right. He would have been the same great hitter had he not done steroids. I was never a big fan, though, and I was never a big Mark McGwire fan. These guys just seemed to piss all over the history of the game and what they were doing. That said, though, everybody was. MLB was fine with it. Sure, it was illegal. It was against the rules, but they didn't test for it either. They clearly wanted the ratings that resulted from it. The Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire battle that everybody picked sides on. I was Sosa, by the way, but everybody fell on one side or the other. That was a boon for baseball. I mean, you had Roger Maris's wife. He had passed away, ready with his old bat to give to Mark or to give to whoever and hold when they broke the record. So it was pretty big for baseball. That said, I was always hypocrisy it kills me. If anybody knows me in real life, it's hypocrisy that just it gets under my skin and I can't abide, whether it's politics or sports. And when you're going to give a guy like Roger Maris a star, an asterisk because he played more games than Babe Ruth and Babe Ruth was so loved, but then you have Mark McGwire juicing and he doesn't get an asterisk, Barry Bonds doesn't get an asterisk. That's where I think people feel like there should be some separation. And I think that's where, and I just want to give an idea of where these writers are coming from, because that's, in my opinion, that's the mindset. They're trying to protect baseball in a way that baseball itself hasn't done. The MLB has shied away from. That said, what's it mean when there are players? So Mike Piazza, David Ortiz, Pudge Rodriguez, these are players that use steroids and are in the Hall of Fame. So we have a list of guys that are some of the greatest baseball players of all time that aren't in because of steroids. And then we have another list of guys that are in, even though it was widely known that they did steroids. That's the hypocrisy that I just don't understand. I say if they weren't banned from the game, then they should be eligible for the Hall of Fame. It's as simple as that. If MLB didn't police it to the point where they're banned from the game, then they should be eligible. And that's not to say that Pete Rose shouldn't be eligible, because I think he should be. But if MLB is not taking it seriously, then why should these writers? Why should they hold the mantle of who gets accepted into the Hall of Fame? That said, I'm a proponent of just let them use steroids. You know what? Let everybody use steroids. Don't police it at all. Juice the balls, juice the steroids. As a pitcher, I love the pitching era, but let's just have fun with it. Does it need to, do we need to police it like we are? Because I think there's a misunderstanding of steroids in general. I can go take steroids for the next year, and I'm not going to hit a home run off of any Major League Baseball pitcher. That's just not happening. It doesn't make you a better athlete. It doesn't make you all of a sudden go from me to Barry Bonds. And I think people think of it that way, but it's not that. But that said, I'm not a fan of the hypocrisy. And I really think that as much as I don't like Barry Bonds and I don't like Mark McGwire, I do think that these guys, A-Rod, I do think all of them should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, so I'm kind of split in this type of topic, right? I think if you had an impact on the game like Barry Bonds, we can go through all the names you guys listed already. Already had on the MLB, on baseball in general, then they deserve a place in the Hall of Fame, especially if they're a part of a league that wasn't policing steroid use or not using steroids in general. How is that really on them that they came out later on and, they were using steroids? Everyone in the league was using steroids at that point, depending on the era, wherever you're at. That being said, too, the flip of that is, and in the defense of the writers, just to play devil's advocate a little bit here, right? You don't want to glorify steroid use and, drug use in general, but, steroids different than your typical street drug. You don't want to glorify that drug use of, just do steroids and you'll be an NBA, NFL, MLB player, right? Putting a guy in there that is a known performance enhancing drug user kind of in a way does glorify that, right? Like it does put, even if you put an asterisk, John, I love your wall of shame almost idea. I think, putting an asterisk, like, yeah, they deserve to be in there because they're a part of a league, where that was a thing at the time. It's just tough because you don't want to glorify, to especially young kids who are in love with baseball. They played t-ball, they're growing up in it. Then they hear about Barry Bonds and how he, is doing steroids, and oh, well, if I want to be the best baseball player possible, I just got to juice up and I'll be it. And Erik, again, to your point as well, I get that it's not as cut and dry as just saying steroids equals Barry Bonds, but you don't want to glorify it either. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, kids are impressionable, certainly, and MLB has tried to do things like get guys to choose sunflower seeds instead of tobacco for that exact reason. But at what point let the parents parent their children? I don't think Major League Baseball has to.
Yeah, and I also think too, Noah, I like your point about kids being impressionable and us wanting to put our best foot forward and only hold up to people who are worthy of it. But then we should take away everybody who did bad stuff. Performance enhancing drugs broke the records, and that's why people, I think, have the problem with it. But do you know how many baseball players were on cocaine in the 80s?
Oh, 100%. That's the other side of it. Yeah, I'm with you.
How many baseball players cheat on their wives? They're all in the Hall of Fame. And I'm not calling out people or naming names, but being a immoral person in certain aspects of your life or doing things that are wrong shouldn't be a prerequisite for getting in the Hall of Fame if it's not for anybody else who did wrong stuff.
But that doesn't flip for you if it's a drug that, I mean, like cocaine's cocaine, right? You can focus more on it if you do cocaine, and we're talking about it for the second. But I mean, at the end of the day, steroids are steroids. They do help you perform better as an athletic person. Granted, you have to have the groundwork there, but
what
it's not like you're doing cocaine to be a better baseball player.
I mean, when we talk about PEDs, though, it's blood doping. It's putting your own blood back into your body. So I don't want to just pretend like it's anabolic steroids. They're so big and bad and scary. There are other performance enhancing drugs that have been banned that help in that regard too. So I don't think we should make the comparison to like hard Schedule A drugs, because I don't think it makes sense.
And then use another example just to show you the side I'm trying to come on. The spider tack. I don't know if you guys have ever felt that stuff. It is super glue on steroids. Pardon the pun. It is insane. And all these pitchers using it and having it and busting it, like, that's cheating too. This stuff is insanely sticky and changes spin rate and all the things with analytics that we see. Which is why now we got to check everybody's hands when they come off the mound. So, should we ban everybody who used, hot sauce in their nose to get a runny nose and get a break on their curveball, and people had Vaseline smeared on the inside of their jersey, and people with spider tack, because that's cheating. The Astros stealing signs. Baseball has a culture. You ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Stealing signs was just an okay part of the game because it was like, the code. But the Astros cheated. They're going to get it. I mean, Jose Altuve is not going to have an issue getting into the Hall of Fame.
See, that's where I think we probably disagree, though. That entire Astros team should be treated like the Black Sox, in my opinion.
That's a take. I haven't thought about it. I don't love it. I definitely don't like it. I hate the Astros for it. I boo them every time I'm down there and they're in town.
Exactly. And it wasn't just stealing signs. I mean, I don't want to derail us completely, but it was using technology to, I mean, they went above and beyond.
Yeah, they were in deep with that. But yeah, not to get us off topic. The amount of effort they put into that cheating effort is crazy.
Beyond anything we've seen, probably.
Yeah, I agree.
So, backwards on so many things. That's the thing. It's inconsistent. Come up with the stance, stick with the stance. I could go back so far with so many things. My first love of baseball came from listening to my grandfather talk about it because he watched Jackie Robinson break the color barrier. But before he broke the color barrier, there were people like Satchel Paige and Josh Gibson and Cool Papa Bell and Buck Leonard in the Negro Leagues. And it took till 1980 for these guys to get in the Hall of Fame. They didn't do any of this stuff wrong. So, I don't know, man. I just think the voting system and the inconsistencies, and we'll put these people in and not these people, and then these people after the fact, have a take, stick to it, say what the Hall of Fame stands for, put people in or out. But it's a gong show.
Mhm.
I don't know. I think it's just a popularity and who was nice to us kind of thing.
1,000% on that. So
Yeah.
should we change? I mean, the biggest bigger question, in my opinion, should we change how you get into the Hall of Fame? Should it be the sports writers members that are voting on this?
I think that would help.
It's a big question.
I think it should change too, but
that's a change from tradition, big time.
And baseball is a league, the MLB is a league based on tradition. Did you know, John, real quick, not to get us off gears, me and Erik went to go get food on Friday of last week. Did you know all all MLB teams still do this traditional 7th inning stretch? Erik did not know that.
I didn't. So let me plug my idea real quick because I think you'll like it, John, as well. My idea was, and I guess we don't have to get rid of Take Me Out to the Ball Game, but the idea was instead of doing Take Me Out to the Ball Game, which I get it, it's a classic, 7th inning stretch happens and comes along, and we amp the place up. So we dress up Slider as Wild Thing, start playing it, and he comes out of the center field wall and out of the bullpen running up to Wild Thing. How much more fun would that be?
That'd be dope. You know what comes to mind is I've never been. It's on a list of I don't like to say bucket list, but I would like to go. The Camp Randall jump around at the end of the third quarter.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
Wisconsin, yeah.
That's the first thing that came to mind when he said, "Let's get this place juiced up." That's kind of the same time of the game, starting the fourth quarter with the 7th inning stretch, like
that and the wave to the cancer patients at is it Purdue?
Purdue,
Iowa.
yeah.
No, it's
Iowa.
Oh, yeah. Iowa. Is it really? I thought it was Purdue.
I thought it was Purdue for some reason.
I would tell you if I were unsure. It's Iowa.
That's a cool tradition too, though. By the way, since we're talking baseball real quick, if you guys have not read Doris Kern Goodwin, who did Team of Rivals, really good book on Lincoln. She did a book on baseball growing up a Brooklyn Dodgers fan. And it's such a nostalgia trip, even if you didn't live like I didn't live, obviously, back then. But if you're a baseball fan, it's one of those books that you just kind of have to read.
Fair enough.
It's on my list.
Gentlemen, let's get into the final topic of the day. Erik's favorite final thoughts and takes. Erik, I'll let you start this off.
All right. So my hot take. Well, real quick before I get into the hot take, I just want to give one more shout out to Zeke Dog, because when we were talking about the Mount Rushmore, he threw out a name that none of us have touched on yet, which was Otto Graham. And I think it's important to bring that one up because that is a big name. I don't want to fact check Zeke Dog, but he said he won 3 NFL and 4 AFL championships in 10 years. I believe you, Zeke Dog. So that's a good one. That's one that I actually agree with.
I do too. That was on one of the screenshots I cut because I think we mentioned Otto Graham briefly when we went through our takes last week.
Oh, did
so we? I wanted to focus on some of I wanted to get you guys laughing and energetic before we got into the show. Anyway, go ahead, Erik.
So my hot take is one that I know you both are probably going to vehemently disagree with me on. I know that anybody listening and watching is probably going to disagree with me on, but let's talk NFL draft and how overrated, overanalyzed a hype show it is. I've never been a big NFL draft guy, which is weird coming from a Cleveland Browns fan because that was our Super Bowl every year and we missed on it every year. Listen, 16% of players drafted don't even play for the team that drafted them. Almost every single pick is considered a bust, and each round of the draft actually has different levels of contracts and money that people get because you're just diminishing talent round to round. But forget about that for a second. Obviously, they say that drafts are won in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round. Patriots always get really good value for those draft picks. How many first-round picks? We could take Cleveland alone. How many first-round picks have we had that we just blew, that they never amounted into anything? I could name 3 quarterbacks just thinking of it. Apart from our Myles Garrett pick, which I loved, I don't know. It's such a hype thing. Anytime you look at the pre-draft list by all the experts, they're dead ass wrong almost all the time. Either it's so obvious it's not even funny, or they're just completely wrong. Mel Kiper, who knows? He comes from left field sometimes. I just think it's a way for the NFL to try to capture even more territory television wise and rights wise. It's all about selling you suckers commercials and watching those commercials on ESPN. And it's too much. I'm not a fan.
John, hot take.
It's top of mind. I like what Erik said, by the way. I was a big draft guy, but yeah, it's a lot, man. They got a lot. Mock drafts into the 5th, 6th, and 7th round are exercise in futility and stupidity, in my opinion. But yeah, my hot take is not all that hot, but it is current. I want to come back to the Cavs. I think a lot of people were heartbroken. They're calling for a sweep. The Cavs looked awful. Donovan Mitchell showed up for the most part. I give him an A-. He did a really good job, especially given the fact that he's banged up. Nobody else really played that well. I stand by a previous take that the Celtics are overrated. I think Jason Tatum has a good choke in him once a series, and he could choke for a whole series if the pressure gets high enough. I think if we can get Jared Allen back healthy, most of that game last night, we were sitting there watching us shoot awful from the field and awful for three-point. And every 30 minutes, I'd look at my mom and go, hell, well, we're down 10. I mean, she came over for the game. I'm like, hey, you hit a couple threes. They got to call a timeout. It's a game again, until it got a little silly at the end. I don't think the Cavs – I wouldn't bet on the Cavs to win the series. I have thoughts on how we could get there, why we probably won't. But the hottest take is just that it's not over. Let's still support the team. They're going to come home. They could be down 0-2. I think this team still has 2 wins in them in this series, and I think they could get them in games 3 and 4 at home, or split in Boston and split in Cleveland. Because if anybody other than Donovan Mitchell can find the broadside of a barn, they're going to be in these games. I wasn't encouraged by what I saw by the Cavs, but I was encouraged by the fact that everything that could possibly go wrong in a game went wrong, and we were still like within 9-11 for the majority of the game. I think that's enough of a striking distance that if Garland can get hot, or Strus can get hot, or somebody could come off the bench, or Allen could rebound, right? We got murdered on the glass. I think the Cavs can make it competitive. So hang in there, keep watching. I know it was a tough watch, especially in the fourth quarter, but hot take is I think the Cavs got 2 wins in them for this series, and I think the first one could come in game 2.
That is hot. Where is Allen, by the way? That guy better have broken a freaking rib.
Rib contusion.
Like, are you kidding me, though? You can't suck it up?
Bad.
Yeah.
So they're actually saying it's worse than just like some bruised ribs.
There are 2 injuries that I have had that I thought before I had them, man, you got to play, and then had them, and it was awful. Bruised rib and a bruised tailbone. Like, you can't.
I've had bruised ribs twice in my life, and if I'm getting paid millions of dollars and in the playoffs, I take some painkillers and I suck it up. Painkillers.
All right. On that note, John, I agree with most of your take. Actually, I wrote an article today that came out, kind of echoing your take, honestly. Same with the regular edition of the East Bank Sports Show. I gave us losing in 6. Matt was more pessimistic and gave us losing in 4. That being said, I'm going to refer to another article I wrote in the previous episode of the regular edition of the East Bank Sports Show, is that all of Cleveland needs to take a deep breath on Kyle Manzardo and let the kid try to play some baseball. 2 games where he doesn't get a hit is not the end of the world. You saw Holiday for the Orioles go out. He batted an .056, and he's still ranked number 1 prospect in the MLB, even with getting called back down to Norfolk. Norfolk, I believe, is the name of the city that minor league team's in. Don't quote me on that one. I think we need to let Manzardo have his time. He didn't play today. The Guards won. Let him go out there for this White Sox series this weekend. Let him play some. Kwan's out for 4 weeks. Let's see what we got here, a little bit more than just 2 games where he doesn't get a hit. First breakthrough into the majors. You know what I mean? You don't always see a kid turn it around and just go for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, it takes at-bats for sure.
Got to get at least 100. Speaking of the White Sox, good team to play when you need some home cooking, man. I
Yeah.
had a former colleague who's a White Sox fan, and 2-3 years ago, Tony La Russa is the problem. I was like, I don't think Tony La Russa is the problem.
No, although he was he just got too old for the game, but no, he was not the problem.
They were on pace to win 29 games at one point this season. And I don't mean like after 4 games. I mean like 20 games played. They were like 3-17 or something. I was like, this is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's not good. Once again, the Central being junk, which always works out well for us. By the way, shout out Vincent. We see you watching and commenting. We appreciate the love.
I was about to throw that out too. I just closed out of the full screen to see what all the notifications were. Shout out Vincent Rogers. That being said, guys, do you have anything else you want to throw in there? And I'll put the timer up if you do.
I just want to say I'm going to get it out before you can get the timer up. I appreciate John's optimism because I'm definitely the cynic of the three of us for sure. And as much as I'm supporting my boys, I don't see the Cavs winning 2 games. Not from what I saw. They're just we used to be a defensive team, and I don't know what happens. It looks like we can't defend anymore.
Yeah, I'm with you on that take, honestly. John, anything else real quick?
I have 4 daughters and a wife, and I am in sales for a living. I can stay optimistic in the face of a lot of adversity, fellas. So if you need it, holler at your boy.
I'm with you too. That being said, thank you everybody who tuned in and watched today's live episode, tuned in, watched after we posted it on YouTube, Instagram, everything, everywhere, iTunes, Spotify, everywhere it goes. We really appreciate the support. Make sure you hit the download button. Enjoy us next week. Actually, real quick housekeeping. We won't be doing an episode next week. I'm taking my first big boy vacation. I'm going to Las Vegas, so I will not be around to do a show next week.
He might not be coming back, guys.
Let's hope we win some money, right? But no, I'll be gone. So after this week, next week, following, we'll be back with another live show. We have a live guest, a new guest, a popular guest. I'm teasing it right now, coming on the May 27th, the Monday edition of the East Bank Sports Show. So keep an eye open for that when I announce who that is. She's a great host. I'm really excited to have her on. There's your hint. It is a female. Until next time, everybody, enjoy the rest of their week. And remember, it's just another day at the office. Go Browns, everyone.